Simon crouched before the leader, who informed him that he would be training with him from hell until lights out for the next 4 days. They were watched from the side of the academy building as Steve said that this fool was still trying to make excuses. Ash stared ahead as Ben thought about how this was going to be a lesson and that the protagonist, Nigong, was stronger than he expected, adding that even if the right bodyguard had trained him, it was still strange. The man propped his head up on his fist, thinking about how the bald man had Nigong that amounted to about 30 years of training since he had eaten the healing stone, and how Ash was stronger than him. Ben turned his head, leaning on the chair, thinking that there was no way that drunkard Hank had trained him properly. The protagonist looked ahead determinedly as the man suggested that he simply had a natural ability to absorb the benefits of the healing stone to its fullest extent. Ben smiled as he thought about what was expected to be no other explanation, and how even though he was a half-breed, he was still a tiger cub even though he was descended from a tiger. He imagined Ash looking at Jack and thought that it would be interesting to watch the two heirs in the same group fight. The cloudy sky was above the great hall of the main training ground. The cadets were sitting at the table with food when Steve ordered them to start eating. The chopsticks were clamped between pieces of food. The protagonist brought the chopsticks to his mouth, thinking about how delicious the chicken marinated in soy sauce was. He chewed with tears in his eyes, remembering the torture of eating only porridge for 2 weeks. Ash opened his eyes. In front of him sat an angry Jack as he wondered if this fool was really going to stare at him for the entire dinner, and then decided that he would rather just enjoy the food. The protagonist looked away, thinking that he didn't know why he hated him so much, but he wouldn't forgive the actions of the Sixth Clan. Ash brought the plate to his face, thinking that Jack would never understand what it was like to see his mother die and not be able to do anything, so he should be careful, because from now on, he would surpass them all. The sky above the academy building was blue when it was announced that dinner was over and the Friday schedule was over, and that everyone except number 80 could go free. Sweat appeared on the face of the bald cadet when they were all informed that they were free. Simon followed Steve, who called him. The protagonist smiled contentedly. He was standing in front of a 2-story building. Ash walked past the cadets, thinking that room 8 was the room of group 8, and how easy it was to remember because of such a coincidence. Ash turned around when he was asked about where he was going without his permission. Jack crossed his arms. The protagonist looked away, thinking that this scoundrel always lives up to his expectations. Behind the prince stood the other cadets, when Ash thought about how he was always with his mongrels, probably because he wanted to look like a lord wherever he went. The cadets looked at the crowd of guys, who were talking about how this was the 7th heir, according to rumors, and that it should be interesting. Maria looked away and called out the names Jack and Ash. The prince looked at the cadets when he thought about how many had gathered, and that it was time to start. Someone stopped in front of the protagonist. Jack came close to his face and called him a low-born brat. Ash looked forward sternly when he was asked about how he didn't try hard and just lay in the infirmary. Jack looked into the boy's eyes and called his blood dirty, asking if he irritated him. Then Ash asked if he was insulting the Lord. The prince looked ahead in confusion and asked again. He looked at the protagonist in shock, who asked if calling him a low-born brat was insulting the Lord. Ash smiled and wondered if his status was so high that he could insult the Lord, who was like a god to them. Jack looked at the cadets in irritation and asked when he had ever said such a thing. Sweat appeared on the prince's face when he thought about how he was going to destroy him in front of everyone, but this guy was humiliating him. Maria smiled and said that the Brook clan brat was really stupid. The guy crossed his arms over his chest. Jeffrey looked ahead arrogantly, wondering why this fool was so angry over such trivial things. The prince's hand clenched his clothes as he cursed. Jack swung at Ash, calling him an arrogant chatterbox, adding that he would destroy him. The prince was hit in the face. He fell to the floor in front of the protagonist. Ash smiled and asked what he was trying to say and who he was destroying. There was blood on the prince's palm. Jack looked forward in anger and exclaimed that a lowborn dared to do such a thing. He took off. The prince thrust his fist in front of him. Jack attacked the empty space in front of him. The protagonist landed not far from him. Ash flew up to the roof level as he was reproached for running away. Jeffrey looked up in shock, thinking about how the filthy brat could be weightless. Jack glared at the cadets and asked what they were doing, then ordered them to catch him. The prince was left standing alone. He covered his nose with his hand, thinking about how Ash dared to hit him first and run away, and how if he let it go, he would no longer be considered a human. Someone was moving quickly between the trees. The cadets were catching up to him, wondering why he was so fast. The dark-haired boy pursed his lips as he thought about how strange it was, and how it felt like he was running just fast enough so that they couldn't catch up. Jack appeared next to him, asking why the slow fools were hesitating, adding that he would catch up with him himself. The prince grinned creepily, thinking about catching Ash and destroying his face and every bone in his body. He jumped over a tree branch. The protagonist landed. Behind him stood the prince, who called him names and asked if he was tired of running. Ash turned around and asked him again. His foot turned sharply as he added that it was funny. Jack frowned, not understanding what was going on. The protagonist smiled sinisterly. He raised his hand up and said that there was no point in showing it to others. Ash attacked the prince in front of him. So, friends, this chapter comes to an end. What will happen next? We'll uncover it in the next chapter. Don't forget to rate this chapter out of 10 in the comments. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.